Hello there, I'm going to tell you about some things that happened during this Civilization 6 campaign I'm playing for some reason. I decided to leave the settings on mostly the default things because this is my first game of Civ 6, although I've played some of the others. They didn't have the map type I liked from Civ 5 I think it was, where everything is like an archipelago everywhere and the world is mostly sea. So I ended up picking the fractal option, which just said it does something random, and well, we'll just see what the map looks like. That's one of my favourite parts of these games, getting to find out what the map is like. As for the other settings, it's all normal, we're a random civilization, but I'm also going to turn on these optional things. One thing lets you talk to the barbarians a little bit, so we'll see some more of that later. The other thing randomizes the tech tree and civic trees a bit, although I didn't know what order they were in anyway, so that's made some difference, I don't know what exactly. So here we are in the game. We have been assigned Greece or Sparta, one or the other. We're sort of called Sparta, but our faction is called Ancient Greece or something. I don't really know what's going on. Now we start the campaign with the decision that you always have to make in Civ. Where are you going to settle your civilization? The game is recommending the tile next to me, and this advisor pops up handily explaining why it's good. The thing was, I quite liked the tile I was standing on already because it was close to those other things to the southwest, the milk and horses, and I thought if I put a city right here, we're actually surrounded by useful things we could eventually get connected to the city. While I poke around for a second and set the city up, I should note that I have played the tutorial for this game, which is revolutionary. The only twist is that I played the tutorial I don't know how long ago, could have even been when this game came out. I decided I didn't want to play anymore, and that was that. So with my return to this game, I thought, well, I can probably remember what the tutorial said to do. Well, it's sort of similar to Civ 5, which I know better, so that's something. There are a few big changes. Well, I'm not going to go through my strategy in detail. Just know, if you're a veteran, my strategy is somewhat random and somewhat based on me not really knowing what a good idea is. Well, to start, I'm making a scout. We're going to find out what's going on around us. The good news is that we're kind of strategically safe. We're on this squarish bit of land that's near the top of the map by the looks of that snow up there, with water to the right and to the south, and with a narrow connection to a bigger bit of land with a city-state on it to our southwest, and then some tundra-ish waste up to the northwest where there are also other city-states, as we'll see. A nice spot where we're going to have some closed borders for us to play with to make sure we only have certain directions to worry about. We have though got a barbarian camp there on the right, very close to Sparta, and it's backed into a corner, so really the only place they can go is towards us. This here is the menu that I think I activated as that optional barbarian clans mode. We can talk to these guys and pay them to not kill us. And they're going to eventually turn into a city-state. I don't know if that happens normally in Civ 6, but they're not going to be barbarians forever, which is nice, although it would be good to kill them sooner rather than later. We're going to be getting into that very shortly. I should note that Sparta's setup as a faction does suit early military aggression, because one of our bonuses is that we get extra culture points for killing enemy units, and our unique unit, the hoplite, is really early in the game, or really early in the tech tree. It's just the upgrade of the basic warrior units you have at the very start. So our golden age of military conquest could be very soon. You get the choice to pick a god for yourself after a while. I'm going to take the God of the Forge, which increases the speed at which you build classical and ancient military units, further adding to our early game military potential. I was fully intending to go for some sort of military rush, just because of the vague strategic advantage. If we can take out another player near us towards the start of the game, then we're basically guaranteed to win after that, because you could just sit there with more stuff than everybody else and win a science victory or something like that. Or at least, that's what I was thinking. That is absolutely not where this campaign is going, by the way. A clearer indication of what's going to be happening is this right here. Those barbarians were causing me trouble. I was trying to send a warrior to go and sit on their camp to get rid of them. It's not so bad here. They've just got some slingers, so we can attack the slingers with our warriors. Since we're a melee unit, we should eventually win that fight. But it turned out to not quite be so easy. I thought I was going to take them out and that would be the end of that. It certainly isn't. Simply because of their ability to spawn units. So boom, some warriors appear next to us there. Now we're at a disadvantage. We can go in and take out those slingers and occupy the camp, What I hoped was that the camp would just disappear or something if I walked into it. Maybe that's how it worked in an earlier Civ game or something. I was thinking something like that would be possible. Well no, now we're just in the camp and those warriors can kill us. And in the process of doing so, another warrior unit spawned. So we were more screwed there than expected. And now, with the death of these warriors, our city is undefended. But that's not the only problem we have. You might note that something is happening over there at Sparta. Some actual Roman legionaries have decided to show up and are moving into our territory. They're from another barbarian clan that's somewhere to our northwest, I presume. And they don't pay any attention whatsoever to it being 3200 BCE. They've got the gear, and now we're in trouble. Even if we still had our military units, we'd still be in trouble. So we've got nothing. Our only unit is this settler, which is picking an inopportune time to go out, since everywhere are just barbarians that might immediately kill them. I eventually chose to go to the west because it looks a little bit safer than going to the south, but still not the best start. This is the kind of start where you might want to just rage quit and hope the campaign starts a bit better when you try again, but I do like to play through the disastrous situations to see where they go. So, we're going to do a classic offy-D strategy, that is, hope they don't kill us, and maybe we'll be able to come back from this situation. We unlocked the ability to put walls around Sparta, seems useful in this situation, so we'll start on that, going to take a while like everything in the game. In the meantime, well, we're just going to have to deal with the enemy marauding around. Here they are, just absolutely everywhere. Not too much we can do at this stage, or is there? Well, we're actually very close to being able to do something about this. The Romans, up to no good once again. It's two different barbarian tribes attacking us from both sides, very inconvenient. Here we are a bit later. We're still alive, mainly because the enemy withdrew after destroying all of my improvements, and they're just now coming back after I've put another unit in the field. The walls are done, so we can now get a bonus ranged attack, which is quite nice. However, as you might have spotted down there, the barbarians have simply upped the game. Here they come at us with what appears to be some kind of late medieval halberd type unit. Well, I don't know how they're getting all of this advanced technology. Maybe we were the barbarians all along. Another year 2700 BCE thing happens in that we discover the Americans, looks like Teddy Roosevelt is hanging about here, just to our southwest on the other side of that city-state. Well, we'll have to talk to him more later. Our background project of having our secret second town is going okay because Sparta is drawing all of the heat, so Athens is sitting over there on an inferior tile but having no drama. So maybe we're still making some progress over there, I don't know. There's that bonus ranged attack you can get. You get one free shot every turn from your walls, which is quite handy. We can do fractional damage with that at the very least. I've managed to spit out a couple more warrior units as well, which sort of allows us to defend, but not really, because the barbarians come at us again. This time their men-at-arms unit is just soaking up all the damage we can throw at them, and the Romans are back too from the other side. This is not going very well. Those men-at-arms make a not particularly damaging attack against my warriors. I expected to die the moment we made contact, but we were fortified and they did have to cross a river, so maybe in that instance we did better than expected. But as you can also see, a couple more men-at-arms units come out of the fog of war. We're in big trouble here. However, we've also now gained enough money to use this. We can talk to the barbarian clan with the bonus thing, and I can bribe them into not attacking me. It's a big decision because it will cost most of the money I've made so far in the game to do that. Well, we've done it. So, of all the units on the screen now, only the Romans are hostile to us for a certain number of turns. Although actually the bribe is a bit less effective than I thought, as we'll get to. For now though, I assumed all I needed to do was focus down these Romans. We can do that by just sort of holding out. The ranged attack will take a bit of their health off, and by spamming them with warriors who don't quite die in combat, we can finish them off. And as long as the warrior units don't totally die, they then gradually heal while they stand still, so we don't lose any production value for having their health depleted. Pretty good. So that's that. We are now technically free of the barbarian menace. There's a quick look at the policy screen. You can have all these passive buffs in the background. I won't really bother talking about that, but for the most part, I went for stuff that buffs our military production or reduces military costs, that sort of thing. We get a builder out and we can start putting our improvements back. The destroyed form of improvements don't cost your builder points to build. Your builders disappear after they've done 3 things, but it appears repairing stuff they've done before doesn't count as a thing. So we can bounce back to have some of our tiles improved, which is nice. You might have seen the barbarians are still kind of hanging around my border. I had the opportunity to use the city attack to be damaging them right now, but I wasn't using it because I thought if I do that, maybe it will break the bribe system. I'm pretty sure in retrospect it doesn't work like that. You can damage stuff that's in range of you. They just don't come into your coloured tiles. They'll stand on the border. They're still at war with you. So it is all fair game to kill them. There are just now some extra rules about how close to you they can get, and I wasn't exploiting that here. After a while of peaceful development, we discover that we're still sort of hostile to the barbarians, more so than I thought, because their slingers are attacking my guys as they come over to the border. I figured that they shouldn't be allowed to do this because of the bribe, but it turns out that's just not how it works. This is me checking to see if they're still bribed. Indeed they are. So now we know. They're just keeping their distance, that's all it really is. If we go out of our territory, they'll still come after us, and if we're on the edge of our territory, they can shoot in at us. That's the current rules, it seems. Speaking of shooting, we've now got our first archer unit on the field, perfect for defending across that river right there if they come at us again, so that's a handy acquisition. The enemy too have a few archers of their own though, it turns out. And they start killing my warriors who took down their slingers earlier. Some men-at-arms appeared there as well. Those warriors appear to be in trouble. All bad stuff. We've got Sean Bean telling us a few potentially ahistorical facts about how the Roman Empire fell, as we've now unlocked the ability to be an empire. The whole civic thing is basically just another tech tree, it turned out. I thought there was more to it. One of the great disappointments to me of Civilization as a franchise is that essentially all civilizations play the same and the whole civic system is just an illusion to make you think it's not another tech tree. Why do video games have to be so terrible? I still don't quite know. Before we see those barbarians annihilate us some more, here was a confusing offer I got from old Teddy. Confusing not because of what it is, but because of the UI. I thought both these 2 columns under my offers and their offers was the deal, but it turns out that everything below the thicker line about a third of the way down is stuff that you could put in the deal but isn't in it now. This is disastrous UI. You could easily have the stuff that's not in the deal not be underneath the column that says what is in the deal, considering that the entire rest of the screen is just a massive picture of an overweight man in a suit in 2000 BC. That's not helping me negotiate this trade whatsoever. After clicking around for a while, I think ultimately nothing happened because I messed it up, but we've learned something about the trade system in the game at least. Now, back to us dying. Those archers patrolling the edge of our territory can just kill us so these warriors don't get back to safety. That's another unit lost. And the men-at-arms are just marauding on the border waiting for the bribe to expire or a target to appear. We're still very much under siege. At least our scouts have found the southern end of the map, so we know how tall it is and know a few random locations between us and them. Might come in useful, still plenty more to explore I expect. Actually, I think my scout died around this time to a random barbarian attack, so I didn't discover much more of the map than we see here as I recall. I eventually realised I need to be a little bit careful with this city attack feature, because when the city attack kills a unit, you don't get that bonus culture that Sparta would normally get. So there we saw me taking down some archers and, well, nothing happens. We need to pay attention to that because that bonus culture is probably the only thing that's going to keep us in the game since I'm wasting so much production building military units. We're not going to be generating much culture on our own. We don't even have the basic monument, I think it's called, that normally gives you culture. But there was an example of it working. We shot down those men-at-arms and got 22 culture points. That's like 10 turns worth of having the monument building. Because the men-at-arms are an advanced unit, you get quite a lot of culture for killing them, and we can gradually bring them down over time. I had some hoplites out there and tried to get close to their camp again. This failed miserably. We were just charged and annihilated. A bad move. We're now down to pretty much nothing once again, but those bribes are keeping the enemy at bay, so we're no longer in any real danger of being killed. Although, the bribe eventually expires, bringing us to here when our territory was swarmed with enemies. Well, I just paid them to go away once again. By that point I'd saved up enough money to do that, so we put off the inevitable. And behind my city to the north we've got an encampment. That's a special military district that builds units a little bit better. We're going to gradually build up our army back there, keeping a distance ourselves, and focusing on ranged attacks. because while the enemy can't advance towards me, we might as well exploit our ranged potential, and between 2 units of archers and the city attack, we can take half the health off some men-at-arms in 1 turn, so we can whittle them down if they just stand in our range. We could make use of our hoplites in fortified stance to create some artificial barriers towards the edge of our territory here. Then the archers just blast away from behind with relative impunity. It's all pretty good, so I started spamming out more archers. We're also going to get plenty of experience points by constantly shooting at things, so some of our units will be able to level up from this. All good stuff, and if they never die, they'll retain that level forever. Having that encampment district gives us great people points. I think I might have had a policy as well that does it. And I'm going to use that to grab myself a Great General. The Great General provides a passive buff. There's an area around them in which all of our units will have slightly higher combat stats. That's the white area highlighted here. And handily, you can kind of slip the general in amongst existing units, unlike most things that take up their tile and repel other units from it. So with that, our archers will now do more damage, and our hoplites are actually stronger than men-at-arms, not just because of the Great General buff, but because they get additional stats from being next to each other. And it turns out that bonus is pretty big. It almost doubles their stats if you have 2 hoplite units adjacent to each other, to represent a hoplite phalanx in some way. So if you look at the numbers down there that just went away, one of our hoplite units actually does more damage than a men-at-arms unit, or has more combat strength, I should say. So we can sort of match them in melee. Plus, we don't need to, we can remain fortified and keep shooting anyway. Things are getting a lot better, just in time for the war to end. There's a mysterious yellow magical poof, and then the enemy have turned into a city-state, so their barbarian tribe was gradually becoming a new faction, and now it exists. So Jerusalem is right here, a level 1 city. We're not at war with them, so that's handy, although they're still pretty powerful because they retain all of their medieval quality barbarian units. Handy. The thing is, while that war's over, we both need to A, get revenge, and B, do something with the massive amount of production investment we've put into having this army and having a military focused faction. We have to kill somebody now to have any hope in the game, because if other factions just went into science or something, they're probably way ahead of us by now. We've still only got 2 towns as well. So I still fully planned to go after Jerusalem anyway. I went through a long period of preparation for this attack. Here's a random clip from somewhere in the middle of it to represent it. I would have started the attack by now already. You can see I'm all over Jerusalem. We're ready to go, but I'm waiting because in the top left I'm researching machinery. The random tech tree shuffle happened to give me crossbows in the relatively near future, which is a medieval tier ranged unit. So I thought I'll wait so I can upgrade all of my archers to crossbows. I've also taken a policy that reduces the cost of upgrading units in preparation for that, and at the top of the screen I threw down a colony in some not very good land just to at least pretend we're going to colonize peacefully. From now on, pretty much our best bet is going to use this map spanning army we've built up to just take the nearby cities, and maybe that will allow us to catch up with any factions who've been building cities all over the place. Here we are once the crossbows are available. It turns out you can only upgrade things that are in your own territory, which was disappointing, although in this case, because I don't have that much money, I probably couldn't have upgraded everything anyway. So we now have some good units to play with, and a catapult, which I built upon seeing that the Jerusalem city-state built walls around itself. That's going to come in useful. Soon we declare war, which is all hassle-free, and we just start fighting with them again. Now there we have the crossbows on our side, and right there we just level one of their archer units immediately. Teddy Roosevelt shows up, angry that we're breaking the law or something. I don't know, this all feels above board to me. It's just a continuation of the old war as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, he goes away, and now we get back to the killing. This archer unit or crossbow unit isn't quite as strong, so it can't completely level those enemies. All still good though. Roosevelt eventually comes out with this denunciation, so we now have bad relations officially. That could lead to something because they are the nearest main civilization as far as I know. Well, as long as they don't have crossbows, I suppose it's not too much of a big deal. We'll just continue on with our business. We are going to be taking some counter damage from the enemy attacks. Their men-at-arms can do something to our hoplites, but not too much if they stay together or stay near another hoplite unit, and their ranged attacks will just rain on us with impunity. The thing to remember about all this is that we don't really need to avoid taking damage. At first I was like, it's bad to be near the city because you take damage. But it's the same mindset you need to have in something like Total War, which is that there are no penalties for taking casualties. There's no downside as long as you don't completely die, because your units get their health back. So to win this war perfectly, we don't have to avoid damage, we just have to not have any units die, so anything that's damaged can just get out of the way. It is difficult to fight just because there's no space here. Our army's too big, our ranged units can't get close enough, and there's not much room to maneuver. I feel like in a game like this, a unit with 3 range would be so invaluable because it will just avoid so many issues with not being able to attack with most of your stuff at once. There's a nice misclick, accidentally swapping those units around and missing an opportunity to make an attack potentially that turn. Oh well. Things go fine in the end. The men-at-arms, as mentioned before, are really similar in strength to hoplites if they're close together, so we can bring them down just in melee, like in that little corner battle, and we're raining arrows on everything else to weaken them, so we just grind our way forwards towards the town. Now the catapult comes into play, we can start attacking it. That blue bar is like the wall's health, the defense health, so we bring that down to expose the green bar to damage, and once that's down we can capture the city. Attacks by the crossbows also somewhat diminish their defences as well, just not very much. Having the catapult certainly going to speed this process up. I think their defences repair each turn a little bit. If you completely surround the city, that doesn't happen, but there's not really space to do that. And we don't need to, we can just pound with everything and bring them down, then we send in some hoplites to occupy the city. And there we have it. At long last, revenge is ours. We've overcome the barbarian spam. Although of course towards the end Jerusalem became much weaker because after they became a real faction, they couldn't get those futuristic units, they were back to making that warrior squad right there, which of course gets wiped out by our real stuff. Excellent work, and recorded history is invented at this time. We're finally going to write something down about our exploits. This is also a good time to get rid of that policy that increases damage against barbarians, because from now on we're going to be fighting, well, city-states basically. There's another one to our southwest, and we're going to have to fight them next because we've invested so much in this army, and what's it got for us after 100 turns of struggle? A level 2 city, basically nothing. Any faction could have just made that itself. We definitely need to take multiple other cities with this stack, and fast too, because every turn we have these guys in the field, they're costing us money, and we could be using that money to speed up production on things or buy new tiles. It's all a bit of a risk, I suppose, having this big army out here. Now, it's time to go out into the world and try to do as much as possible with it. And maybe it will all be worth it in the end? We're all going to find out, so why don't you join me for part 2 as the Spartan army, extremely slowly and stumbling over themselves constantly due to a lack of space, tries to head out and see what they can do. Thanks for watching this RPD gameplay commentary. Check out the playlists on my channel for more.